Safi and Marco dish out on the movies. And tonight was Masterchef night. And I don't know the number of the episode. I don't know the season number. But I do know the chef who came, a visiting chef, who came to help judge the competition. And it was Christine Ha, who has a sight problem where she's just, I think she's just, I don't know, there's something about her blindness. She's not completely, but just about blind. And she won a former season, and she was really good. Everybody really likes her. I'd say she's probably one of the most popular winners of MasterChef they've ever had on, because of all the disadvantages she has, mainly that she can't see, but it hasn't held her back. And she probably, her taste, her ability to taste probably exceeds other people, because she's not just looking at something, she's really tasting it. She's really focused on it.
She's the daredevil of MasterChef.
Yeah, I really loved the season, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll watch that season again. And Marco, and it was season 3, right?
Well, I already saw a clip from that season where they're posting the best of clips, and Joe was discriminating against her, saying that she'd be a liability in a real kitchen.
Ah, jeez.
And I was I don't want to watch that whole season if Joe's gonna be Joe.
Yeah, he can get pretty, he was pretty stinking to everybody tonight. Was he nice to the person who won?
I don't know.
For the night? I don't know either. He was just so stinking to everybody. I don't know
guess.
If he was nice to anybody.
Well, here's the thing. This was season 12, episode 11. And this is also an experiment a little bit, because instead of recording, normally what we do is we shoot videos and then we put pictures over them. But for this one, we're going to do an extra step, and we're doing the review on Voice Memo, the app. And then I'm going to screen record it and see if that makes the audio any better for now. Because I did get a wireless microphone, but it turns out that the microphone only works for iPhone 9s and later. Which is really strange, because on Amazon it said that it would work for iPhone 7s.
Well, you should tell them.
Yeah, and I will, because it was complete false advertisement, and we bought that, so that's pretty unfortunate, because that could have made our videos a lot better easily.
I think my phone is actually has some problems, and probably will have to be retired soon. I just use it all the time, but another problem is I drop it constantly. And so, because I have this problem where if something is boring, I fall asleep. And so, anyway, I drop it a lot, and it's doing weird things.
Life is boring.
So, anyway.
This is season 12, episode 11, and it's a mystery box challenge. I would just call this episode Narcissism, because unfortunately, and it shouldn't be like this, but unfortunately, I don't know if it's like a total political thing or something, but they have on MasterChef shows, what do we call it, Safi? The Asian problem, where they'll have Asian contestants and they'll just cook Asian food that they've made their whole lives, the whole season, and they get an easy ride to the finale. And then they win. And this episode sort of further demonstrates this bias, this weird, strange focus that they have, as if like they shot this in 2020 and it was like a Stop Asian Hate theme season. As if like they're all the same, right, Safi? Like that's what this episode makes it seem like. Like,
I don't like that.
You know,
awful.
There was so much narcissism in this episode it made me want to throw up. I mean, but it's just unfortunate. Like, just because you have Christine coming, just because she's Asian, just because she's a woman, that means that that's all they're going to talk about. Because it's 2022, so that's all they're going to talk about. They're not going to talk about how she's a talented chef.
She's a very talented chef.
They're not going to talk about how she's, I guess, blind. They're just going to say, she's Asian. She's a woman. She's Asian. She's a woman. And so they basically focused on all the Asian chefs talking about how glad they are to see someone like her. And it's so retarded because it's like, especially Dara. Dara really, she just completely,
annoys me.
She is like what would you equivocate? I think that it's kind of like when you get...
Well, she's immature, and she thinks she knows it all, and she doesn't. She has a lot of life to go through. Like all these other chefs, no matter how talented they are or not talented, they're older. Even if they're a few years older, they've gone through a lot more than her, and she's really like a baby. But she makes these pronouncements like she's already won the show or something. And unfortunately, when you look at her cooking, even when they were getting their extra ingredients together, they had to use everything in the mystery box. That was the challenge. Every single thing had to be used, and there were several. And some of them were kind of spicy, meaning they were hot. But anyway, no matter. So they had to get a meat or something else, or many something else's, to make a complete dish with all those ingredients plus what they picked. And when she was doing that, just that, not even cooking yet, she looked like again, this week, she looked like a deer in the headlights. Meaning she looked scared.
Yeah, she's scared of everything.
Stressed.
She's like the raccoon that we had to try to trap upstairs.
For about 4 days, has been a nightmare.
It was 6 days, Safi.
Oh, God, don't even say it.
And so that's what she's like. But the thing is that like as soon as we get to her, it's like, oh. And she's the youngest. She's the typical age of like, the college feminazis with their narcissism bullshit. Where it's like, I have to see myself in everything or else it's not me. And so you have her and she says, I'm so glad to see Christine as an Asian and a woman chef. She is so important to me. And, I see myself in her. And it's like...
You do?
This is typical, like maybe if Christine... decided that she wanted to
be like a deer in the headlights.
Be a plus size model, and maybe if she suddenly gained back her eyesight, there's just so many things, and it's that typical narcissism thing where it's like everyone has to look exactly like them in order for them to like them and to think that and to look up to them. And so it's that bullshit representation gimmick that these filmmakers try to push. And the thing is that it's so incredibly racist. It's so incredibly sexist because it's saying like, oh, Safi, you can't look up to a black person because you're not black. So you can't be inspired by a black person because they don't look like you.
And if she doesn't mean that, it's hard to say that she doesn't or that she does mean it, what she's saying, because she just keeps saying it over and over. It's like she doesn't know what else to say. To me, it's naivete.
She acts like Christine is the first Asian female chef to ever exist.
And I watched...
Which is hilarious.
Well, I watched this season, and Christine was never like that. Yeah. Not that I remember. It was all about her just being able to do the cooking and smelling, tasting, and making the preparations blind, but feeling the ingredients and smelling. I mean, everything. She used every one of her other senses to make the dishes that she made.
What's funny, Safi, is that they made a point that Christine has done she's judged a MasterChef Asia competition.
Oh, really?
And so it's like, oh,
I didn't see that.
I guess there was no Asian female chefs in the MasterChef Asia show. Like, why doesn't Dara look up to any of them?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because, I guess that's not convenient for the narrative of, like, I have to see myself exactly who I am, or else I won't feel like that person. Like, that's just so racist. Like, that's something a KKK member would say. Like, that's something...
They'd say it differently, but
yeah, they'd say...
basically mean the same thing.
Oh, you know what they'd say. They'd be like, N-word, 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 N-word. Right?
Yep.
That, I don't talk like that. I'm just imitating them. Of what I would think that they would be like.
It was queer. I didn't like that at all, but... And if it makes them feel good,
then,
I just...
No, that's stupid, because it's like, oh, Superman. No Asian can look up to Superman. No black can look up to Superman. No Hispanic person can look up to Superman because he's a white man. Like, that's just so racist and so sickening and stupid.
Actually, he's an alien.
That's Safi. He's a fucking American man. He, what's his saying, Safi? Truth, justice, and what?
The American way.
Yeah, you're damn straight, Safi. Okay, and so that's what I'm saying, and also American. Oh, so nobody from outside America can look up to Superman. Like, that's the type of bullshit that we get from these types of people. That's the type of racist, backward stuff that they say, is that you can't look up to them. You can't want to be that. You don't want to be like them because they're not really you, and that's just such. It's so narcissistic. It's not even funny. And then you have the fact that Christine is Vietnamese. What's Dara, Safi?
Chinese.
Yeah, she's Chinese. So that's another issue. Like, you know, is basically Dara was saying that all Asians are the same. You know, yeah. So I guess they're all the same, Safi. There's no difference between a Chinese person and a Vietnamese person,
Which
according
I think they would beg to differ.
to this person. And that is just, that's so
dumb and naive.
So, yeah, let's just stop with the bullshit mo representation gimmick that we've all grown to know and hate from these attention-seeking retards. And so then we have... and then the gay guy, he didn't even talk about the fact that, like, she's an Asian woman. Like, he just said that he really liked her or something. I think he was the one Asian person who... Or wait, no, Fred didn't say anything, right? Or, oh, yeah, he did.
I think he might have said one thing.
Ugh.
Well, he was...
Ugh.
He is not as confident about himself, and he says, it's nice to see someone who looks like me.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
But because he doesn't seem very confident, and
why doesn't he just watch the MasterChef Asia then?
I don't know. I didn't know. I've never heard of that.
I think there's multiple. I think there's MasterChef Singapore, MasterChef Tokyo, or something like. There's MasterChefs everywhere.
Oh, really? It's like Wheel of Fortune.
Like what? Why just buy the bootleg and watch it? Like. Nobody's stopping you in America, like in China. You know, they're not censoring you to make it so that you can't watch it, like what China would do. So you can watch anything you want, and you can't. You don't have to complain and pretend like, you know, there's no Asian chefs in America.
I still like Fred. I don't think Fred is as much.
Well,
he's not naive.
Yeah, he's not a Dara.
He's not, and she's just, to me, she's naive. I'm sorry.
And
I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just saying she's very naive. And there was something else she said that was really...
Oh, you want to talk about it now?
No, I don't. I'm trying to figure out what it is. But she said something really annoying, and I'm not...
For some reason, they had to do a voiceover where she had to commentate over, because it's another thing, like, you know, we have to have the Asian person commentate. We can't have another contestant who, we hardly even see commentate. It has to be Dara. And so she said, I'm very worried about the chefs here, the certain chefs here not knowing how to use these ingredients because they've never used them before. They don't know how to use them.
Because they're not Asian.
Because they're the whites. And, that's what she basically said.
Or anybody else. They're just not Asian.
Yeah.
It's just any of them.
That's what she said.
She said that.
And it's like, oh.
That really pissed me off.
I don't think the other chefs just play it safe all the time and just cook what they cooked as a child. I think they cook a variety of things because they're talented chefs who are well-rounded and not in the physical way, obviously, because we know that Dara is very well-rounded, like a
don't do that.
Russian nest doll.
Well, whatever. We're not doing personal attacks.
Why not?
But I did not
She's personally attacking those chefs and saying because they're white they don't know how to cook Asian food.
But the thing is, they're not all white. They're African American and white. I mean, there are all kinds of different people there. And for her to say that is incredibly naive and single-minded. Because you're talking about all these people we know, or they wouldn't be on the show for the most part. And I can't say that the guy who was booted last week, he's mainly about style and fashion.
Safi, the person who was booted last week was the segregationist woman.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Remember?
I'm thinking about Tommy. Well, anyway, they're not just... These people, they do cooking all the time. Some of them, they make a living out of it. They may not be a master chef, a primo chef. The guy whose haircut I don't like, I think he's like some kind of master executive chef or something somewhere.
It's such a stupid thing to say regardless, because it's like the ingredients are so basic. Like it's, was there like bok choy? Wasn't there like those noodles, those weird white noodles? The ingredients were very typical of like modern cooking, and so like
she was careful though. She carefully chose them. They weren't weird. Like you didn't have some sea
fish eyes,
weird thing,
duck eggs, aborted duck eggs,
weird beef stuff like
earthworms.
Oh, God.
Scorpions, cockroaches,
they were basic.
They weren't weird Temple of Doom type of foods. They were, normal foods that people probably eat all the time at like these restaurants. They like to go to the higher end restaurants. Even the typical like the faux restaurants. I mean, as if nobody's ever heard of faux before. Like she just really like showed how black and white of a mindset she has, which is, typical for the 2022 segregationalist types of people like that, who they just want everyone to go back to segregation. And so we had to watch that, and
it just really irritated me. I thought it was so disrespectful. And I know she didn't mean it, but that's what it comes off as. And a lot of those people, they have about 1,000 times more experience than she does in a lot of different cooking styles and foods. And yes, maybe they haven't had a lot of Asian cooking experience, or maybe they have. How does she know? She doesn't. So really, she shouldn't be saying stuff like that.
I thought that you were supposed to judge people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. But it seems like certain people in 2022 want to go back to that type of mindset. Especially people on Masterchef for some reason. I don't know.
It irritates me. I don't like it. Some of those people are irritating to me, but I think it was disrespectful. So we're just getting off now.
Well, it was because it's Dara. She ruins everything. Like she's like the turd in the punch bowl for this episode.
She didn't win the first Junior Master Chef, So I guess everybody wants her to try to win, but she really is not. Talk about somebody who hasn't had experience cooking with different ingredients.
I guarantee Shane would have done way better than her in this challenge. Guaranteed.
I don't know, but he just seems more ready to. He's ready to jump in a pool of.
He's more
water.
adaptable.
Yes, he is more adaptable.
More confident. More cool.
Anyway.
He still has a weird hairdo. I mean, it does look like he should be carrying a tiki torch into Masterchef kitchen. Right, Safi? Remember the tiki torch?
Yeah, I know
people?
all about that. I want to talk about that. I want to hear about it. I want to talk about that.
That was
horrible.
That was no, it wasn't. It was like
yes, it was.
It was
I
like
don't say otherwise.
It was like a tiki torch haircut type of person.
But he was a very nice person, and he was very supportive of other people. And I would think you could say of him that he did the best he could.
Yeah.
And he has a lot more, and I think he would agree, he has a lot more experiences to do and to live. He has more years, because I think, wasn't he younger than her?
No. Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The Ethiopian food thing was more understandable because, obviously Vietnamese food is more popular than Ethiopian food.
Yeah. Well, there also, you had a lot of Vietnamese come here during the, 70s?
Well, the last thing...
So, there's not a lot of Ethiopians, I don't think.
The last weird, cringeworthy thing that was said was by the Spice Queen, unfortunately. She said that, she was very glad to see, something about a woman chef. And so, she was excited to see that a woman chef won in a male-dominated industry. And it's like, we already talked about this on MasterChef Junior. We talked about, hunter-gatherer society, how women have been chefs since the beginning of time. There's no men that are stopping women from being chefs. It's the typical 2022 I'm a victim mindset that comes from these segregationalist people. And, it's just a bunch of bullshit. To call cooking a male-dominated industry when you have a bunch of men who like to... What do they like to say, Safi?
I don't know.
Make me a sandwich. Get in the kitchen. Get back in the kitchen. I mean, people say that. So, you can't sit there and say cooking is a male-dominated industry when there's so many people who like to say, get back in the kitchen.
I don't know.
That's a famous saying. That's a famous
I doubt if she's
line
familiar with that.
And it's like, how could you even say that? It's just so dumb. It's like, just because Christine... And what was funny was when they had that African-American woman who came in for the other episode, that she was really good from what it seemed. And when they had her come in, they didn't have all this tap dancing about, she's a woman, she's this, she's that. They didn't talk about that, I think, when they did that episode. But then, all of a sudden, when Christine comes in, that's the entire focus of the episode.
And she was actually, this is how businesslike she is. She was there to help the judges, make some kind of impact. And, they would go around, and I think because he knows Gordon, he knows that she's so popular with the people who are on the show, as well as the public, people who've watched the show from outside the show, that he took her around, and she met, I don't know if she met all of them and they just didn't show it, but we saw quite a few visits with different people in the contest. And she made an effort to ask them all kinds of questions, very quickly, very businesslike. And then when she made an effort to taste everything, when it was brought up, whether it was from the good, they picked 3 good people, where they're going to pick a winner who gets this special immunity pin, and then next time they'll be immune from being ousted. And then she tasted all the people who got the worst. And it was just business. It wasn't about being a woman or Asian. She can't see. She can't see whether they're Asian.
She can't see color.
None of them had any accent. Maybe one of them, the guy who's actually from China, he's not. He hasn't moved here.
Yeah, he has an accent, and
he
then
does have a little bit of an accent, but she would hear it because she's very attuned to her other senses.
Willie has a bit of an accent. Fake Face has a bit of an accent.
Yeah, so, but anyway, she's not looking at that. She can't see.
Yeah,
but she can hear.
She's not judging people based off of the color of their skin. She's basing them off of the content of their character.
Well,
which is
food.
What people were taught before 2022.
Well, also, this is Masterchef. They're trying to pick a master chef. Yeah. Which means above everybody.
They're not trying to pick a master race.
Ooh. Well, anyway, so Dara has no she's from the United States, I believe. I don't think she's from, she's Chinese, but I think her parents are Chinese, and therefore she looks Chinese.
There's a lot of people who are Chinese, but they don't look Chinese at all. There's people who are called like white Latinos or like white Spanish people. Like you have the albino peoples, and there's all sorts of different people.
But anyway, here she is. She's
vampires.
There. She's doing her She's doing her job.
Werewolves.
She's actually trying to help.
Reptile people.
And that's what it's all about. It's not about being a woman. It's not being about Asian. It's not about being blind.
There's the Garbage Pail Kids.
It's just about who's good at cooking. Well, the goal was to use every single ingredient in your dish, and then you come up with the rest, which means, you have a main meat. You pick a meat. Somebody picks salmon. They pick short ribs.
There were a couple of interesting things that happened, like, I don't know, I think mostly it has to do with the top three, top and bottom, but not really anyone else. I was kind of surprised that for the bottom that they didn't pick certain people. Like, I was surprised that Fred didn't get in the bottom. I was surprised that the gay guy, Bowen, he didn't get in the bottom. I was surprised that a couple other people didn't get considered, because what they did was they did the overacting thing where they walked around and they picked up dishes and threw them and licked the plates and like weird stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and sort of like this weird food inspection. And it's like, instead of doing that, just taste all the dishes, you lazy asses. Like, just bring them all up there and taste all the dishes. Because I'm sick of these episodes where you guys don't taste all the dishes. And there was a funny moment, though, with Joe, where he just kept on going around.
And he had a mean look on his face.
Making faces at people, crossing his arms, raising his eyebrow at them, lifting up his chin, turning his nose down on them like he's so much better than them. And, the typical Joe bullshit.
I really don't like it.
Then he tasted Bowen's soup, and this is why I was surprised, because he tasted his soup, or pho, and it was so spicy that he was starting to like...
It bothered him. It bothered him a lot.
He limped around and coughed, and it seemed like, maybe he put too much in, and I thought... also, I think it was store-bought, too.
Oh, that's right.
Store-bought sauce.
Because Gordon said something. Did you use this? It was just this little jar, one of these like spice jars. They're narrow and small, and if you think about it in terms of quantity, it's a little quantity of something, whatever, at an exorbitant price. And he used a jar of something, and it was like it wasn't a dry spice. It was some kind of like a mayonnaise.
It was a paste.
Yeah, it was a paste.
Chili paste.
Oh.
And
he goes, "You use that?"
He started... and Gordon didn't like that he used the store-bought stuff.
No, they're supposed to home make everything. Which is, I don't know.
It's understandable for the competition.
I don't think he's going to win, so...
Yeah, definitely not.
I don't think he's experienced enough. I guess he does have a restaurant, but my thought is that it is an Asian restaurant, and all they have is Asian food.
Well, restaurants open and close, so he might not have a restaurant in the future. He might have to start a new one.
Yeah.
So...
Who knows? It's nothing against him. He's not a bad person either.
Well, I was saying that because
He's not a show-off.
I had looked up this really pretentious restaurant that they went to in Masterchef Junior Season 3, and I'd seen that it was closed. And so I thought, oh, that's funny that pretentious place isn't even around anymore. So pretentious. They have a new place or something, and it's like, ugh. So
anyway.
The top 3 were who?
Nora!
Oh, wait. Let's talk about the commercial, because there was a Masterchef Grubhub commercial.
Oh, yeah.
And first we saw Jerron. And we were rooting for Jerron, just so you guys know. We thought that he was great, and he was like the under-the-radar guy of that season.
Very under the radar, almost all the way to the end.
He was very good.
But he was good. And, but guess what? Then who came on to the commercial and was cooking?
Michael Myers.
Michael. The Michael who won tonight? Who won the immunity pin?
Oh, we haven't gotten to that yet, but...
Oh, sorry. Well, anyway.
But he was on there, and that indicates something.
I think it might indicate that he's the winner of this season.
Yeah.
And they just haven't shown it yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've made a mistake. They were hoping people didn't notice. I could be totally wrong. But I found it suspicious. Because he is good.
It's tough to say because they've advertised with people who haven't won before for MasterChef Junior.
And he was on a previous season. But I don't remember him standing out as much as he does this season.
He was very mediocre that season. He didn't go very far. He was sort of cut off, unfortunately, and so this was like his redemption.
Okay. Well, he's been practicing.
Yeah. And
he was familiar with some of the ingredients.
I think he owns a restaurant too, or something. He knows how to run one, and so he was on this commercial. And that was very...
suspicious.
Uh-oh.
Did they blow it?
Yeah. And did we spoil it and make them stop thinking about race so much and start thinking about the quality of their show? And so the top 3, number 1 was Michael. He had this very intense last-minute thing where he pulled his food out of the pressure cooker.
At the last minute.
And that hardly ever works out for people. Usually,
not in this show.
It's indicative of like, you're going home.
He made a pho, and a pho is a Vietnamese food that uses all these big ingredients. They're huge, and what you're looking for is this broth, and then you might add some stuff at the broth in the end. But what you want, and she said it. Christine said it was very risky for him because you have to get the full effects of getting the bone flavor into the broth. And even with a pressure cooker that he was using, she was worried that it wasn't going to succeed, but he did. And he took a huge risk because he brought it out the last 2 minutes or less. And of course, they have to do the 3 plates, and they have to be identical.
The stupid, unnecessary part.
And plus she was tasting it, and she knows what pho is. Because it's a Vietnamese thing, I believe.
And the second person was Christian. Yes. And I thought that he did the best job personally. His dish looked the best in my opinion. It looked like a classic dish that you could get served at a restaurant, like a modern restaurant in that certain area with all those different types of restaurants. Like, it looks like a great modern dish, and it looked like it had a ton of spices in it, a ton of cooked ingredients, because a lot of the dishes tonight, they looked like they had raw ingredients.
Well, I just thought they did look bland.
They looked dry.
And what the problem was with the ones that didn't do well, at least that they pointed out, is it seems like a lot of people prefer sauce.
Yeah.
And when you have a bunch of ingredients...
Like today, when we went to Wendy's and I wanted to have ranch dressing because Wendy's ranch dressing is really good, guess what happens? They don't give me any ranch dressing.
And I clearly said it. And I just... some people like sauce, and
everyone does.
People who don't like sauce or
they're
don't
weird.
use it,
they're weirdos.
Well, I'm not going to say they're weird, but
yeah,
they should be
they're
aware
weird.
that many people do like sauce.
Yeah.
And these people, if I don't know if it would have helped them or not, seems like it would have. They griped at least 2 out of the 3, I believe, for not having any sauce.
Yeah.
Because they had the ingredients, okay, but the sauce would have pulled it all together, and they said that, and they didn't have it.
We'll get to that, though. And so Christian did a great job, and he had a bit of a New Orleans twist, too. So that would have been the dish that I would have chosen and that I would have also wanted to eat. And the last person was Dara. And it was funny because the other 2 chefs were what, Safi? A white guy and a black guy.
Yes, they weren't Chinese.
Whoops.
Or any other Asian.
I guess they knew how to use the ingredients.
I guess they did.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. And we actually thought it would have been even funnier if she didn't even get to go up there. That would have been hilarious.
Unfortunately, she did.
Yeah, she got the...
Because they're really pumping her up.
Yeah.
Like they want her to win.
Just like with Masterchef Junior this year.
But they can't force it. In other words, those 2 guys, Christian and Michael, are extremely talented. And they can't pretend like they aren't. So.
And she had like a rice porridge dish with fish on top of it.
But you know what Christine said? Now, remember, she can't see these people. If they have no accent, she doesn't know that they're not Asians because she doesn't care. She just cares about the cooking. She says, my mom used to make this kind of porridge for me when I was sick.
Yeah. So, it was a sickly dish, and yeah. Okay. So then the bottom 3, number 1, we had who? Safi? Brie cheese.
Brie. Poor Brie.
It was so funny watching her cook because she just looks like a robot. Like she's doing things and she's like...
She's too slow.
She looks like a robot, Safi.
But she was a good manager at the last group challenge, and she listened to what people were saying. Like when that guy said, well, I did that challenge in your season and you saw me, I cooked over 100 whatever and they were perfect, and why aren't you picking me? You know, are you stupid or what? He didn't say all that, but still he had that look like, are you stupid or what? And she just like ignored him. But anyway, Brie heard him say those things. He said, hey, maybe he'd be good for our team. Even though he's a weirdo, he has a weirdo haircut. So anyway, she made the right decision. And she was supportive. She constantly walked around and tried to, this has been one of the biggest problems.
She didn't segregate people.
And this is a very important thing. 2 words, especially when you're going out to eat. Quality control. And I've seen evidence of it when there's not a person to either, they don't have the silverware, they don't have the right cups, they don't have the straws, whatever, the sauce. Like Marco wanted ranch dressing.
Yeah.
They got hung up because one of the cashier said, oh, well, we have to make sure they gave us the right amount of money. Well, that's good. That's quality control there.
But this girl was going to hand us our bags. Already before we even handed her the money. So she was already confident, even though she didn't put the ranch dressing in the fucking bag.
Yeah.
And this has happened on multiple occasions. Like, you guys wouldn't believe how many times we have not just gotten ranch dressing when we said we just want ranch dressing on the side. Like, it's so simple, and in fact it's such a common occurrence that in that Studio 666 movie that they actually had a running joke where the main character, he orders fast food while he's working on his music, and they never give him any ranch dressing, and he gets really pissed off.
Well, we've used it as a test.
Yeah.
We didn't even really want it, but we used it as a test to see if they followed directions.
Yeah, I get ranch dressing every time now, because then on the times where they don't give it to me, I always have backup sauce. So that's how important sauce is. And Brie Cheese the robot, she had I thought her dish sounded really good, personally. It was salmon with noodles and coconut and lime sauce. That sounded really good to me.
And the salmon looked really good. And guess what they said? Tell him, Marco.
Joe, the snob, he said, in this season, we expect our chefs to be able to cook perfect salmon.
And some of them can.
And you did. But you didn't make a Vietnamese enough dish. It wasn't Vietnamese enough. And so it's like, oh, well, he did the typical Joe thing where he moved the goalpost over to like, you cooked perfect salmon, but you didn't cook a Vietnamese me.
It just comes off as pretentious and a snob. Now, I can't stand it. I just don't like how disrespectful it is and mean.
And we all know
stop.
We all know that if she hadn't have cooked her salmon right, they would have bitched about that too.
Oh yeah.
So
big time.
The fact that she cooked it perfectly and they still bitched about it is just really weird.
It did look weird. The sauce looked weird. It was all white.
Yeah. It looked,
I don't know. And watery and white.
It looked bland.
Yeah, and that's what they said.
However, just reach over there and grab the soy sauce. You'll have Brie get it for you, Safi.
And she'll put it on for you, too.
And she'll come over and robotically put it on you, put it on the plate, and so anyways, the next person who went up there was, and by the way, all the three people in the bottom were three white women, which was, oh yeah, and Michael won. He won the immunity for next episode, so that was funny too.
Yeah.
After what Dara said.
Yeah.
So the next person was Brandy, and they had this really weird thing where they discriminated against her based on what her station looked like.
Oh,
because Gordon saw her burnt pot where she had burnt pork belly in the pot, and she did what any normal chef would do, and she just trimmed the burnt stuff off.
Yeah.
And so Gordon had her come up there anyways because he thought that, why isn't this burnt like the pot? And it's like, gee whiz, I don't know. Like, why don't you put two and two together and stop, like, it's just the strange, like, I mean, why would you even ask that? Like, isn't that the stupidest thing you've ever heard?
Well, I just think he's being a jerk. He knows what happened.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so I didn't understand why she got picked to be in the bottom three at all, in my opinion. It didn't look great, but it didn't look terrible. And the thing with, she cooked really good pork belly, apparently, which looked really tasty.
It did.
I had pork belly at this Vietnamese place, and although I did get food poisoning, I don't think it was from the pork belly. And the pork belly was very good.
Yeah.
And the best thing about that meal, by the way, was the sauce. The sauce, you dipped everything into the sauce.
Yeah.
And so that was how integral it was to the meal.
And she had trouble with the sauce, didn't she?
I don't think she had any sauce, or it was some weird sauce, a strange sauce. And the last person was who?
I don't know her name, but she's another Southerner.
Who's the last guy? Who
Can't
was
think
it?
of her name.
Who was the last?
She's very quiet, but she's been really good. I can't
Oh
think
yeah,
of her-
Emily.
Emily.
Well, she's one of the top ones. I would say Christian, Emily, and Michael are my top three. And the reason why I forgot is because I can't even see that she's there half the time.
They hardly ever show her.
Because she's so good that she just kind of skates by without having to put any effort into anything.
Well, it's this layer of people in the middle.
Yeah.
They're not the best and they're not the worst. So they only pick 3 in each category, which is 3 really good ones and 3 really bad ones.
The cruisers.
And the middle ones, nothing. They're just getting by. And it's kind of bad because really...
Well, she's really good, so who cares?
Whatever.
I mean, there's other chefs to complain about Safi.
I know, but I mean, this is what I've said all along. They have this middle part, and there's people who float around in the middle, but their day is coming.
Emily, like Fake Face in particular. Emily made a dish that sort of seemed like a dish that Gummy Worm Molly would make, where it was it looked like a grilled pork chop salad. It looked like a grilled type of salad, and it was very simplistic and dull. And I don't know what happened with that, but I don't know. I mean, it wasn't. The 3 bottom dishes weren't necessarily terrible. They were just boring.
Yeah, in fact, they said that. The judges said that quite a bit.
So who went home, Safi?
Who went home?
Brie Cheese. Finally.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I wanted her to go home. Even though
I didn't.
She's not a bad person at
After
all.
last week, I thought she should have 1 week where she does good. 1 more week.
But she didn't do that good.
Yeah.
But she I don't know. At least she didn't. I just hate saying bad things about them because I some of the pretentiousness and the snobbery and
From Joe.
Yeah, and then this thing with Dara saying, I'm really worried about some of these people because they've never had to use those ingredients. How the heck does she know? I mean, really, come on. So I really hate talking bad about these women. But they just didn't. Brie has been. She's been just barely making it. But last week she did I just haven't seen that good of a job. Usually the managers, we've seen for the kids. We saw one. They just couldn't handle it. And they replaced him, and then that guy did okay.
That might be the best team that we've seen in MasterChef and MasterChef Junior.
Yeah.
In the past year.
They really, were very consistent, pretty much.
Yeah.
99%. They weren't perfect, but they were pretty nearly perfect. And she is the one who was the manager. And even if she can't cook the most master chef-y type dishes that you have ever had, she still is really good at other aspects of the business.
Safi, do you think she cried after she left the show?
Well, she and Fred are best friends.
You think she
and
cried?
He was sad. Yeah,
you
probably.
think she cried when she got in the car, and she cried when she got in the plane?
I don't care.
And she cried when she got home.
Who knows? You're dragging this out now.
And then guess what happened, Safi?
I don't know.
Somebody took off her shirt and then pressed a button, and she went beep boop 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 boop, and then they poured the oil on her so that they would change her robot oils. And she's like, "Okay, I am reacting to function as a chef in a kitchen."
She's just a real perfectionist. The thing is, some of that cooking, she's slower about it. It's probably like me and shipping. I'm real slow with the shipping. I don't know what it is. I can't seem to speed it up on even the most simplest things. And but she cuts like everything is cut perfectly in a slower mode. And you just can't. They're under tons of stress to move it quickly. And she's just not like that. That's what I say. She wouldn't have made it. No way.
Safi, wouldn't she be good for like The Biggest Loser? For them to have like a chef on the show where she like portions everything out really perfectly.
Yeah, she's very much of a perfectionist.
Okay, this contestant can only have a third of salmon. This contestant can have a third of octopus.
And she would measure it all out with a ruler and everything.
And she cut it with her laser eye vision.
Yeah. So anyway, enough of that. But I don't know what else to say. I
can't wait for Dara to get home.
I can't wait for Dara to leave because she doesn't belong there.
I'm just waiting. It's like, when is it going to happen? Are they really going to send her to the finale? Really?
Yeah, because I don't think she's experienced enough, which is so funny because of what she said about, I don't think these people have had any experience.
No, she said she was worried. She was worried about them. As if she's already, she's worrying all about herself. She looks like she's having a panic attack, but then she's worrying about everyone else too.
Yeah. Which is just BS.
So Safi?
Yeah? Oh, what am I going to give it? Well, I'll give it a B+ for Christine being there and showing what a real chef is like. One who she does have this disability, but it's not a disability for her. In fact, if she got her sight back, she would probably be lost for a while because she uses all of her other senses to the best that they can be to do her cooking, and she does an excellent job. And
I would give it a C- because
I just don't like Joe.
I give it a C- because I was really disappointed by the fact that just because Christine was on, they made the entire focus about her being Asian and woman. Like, that's the only thing about her as a person, apparently.
That's really totally unfair. I mean, my God, the obvious thing is she's blind and she cooks, like, unbelievably. It's kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback is real good at being a quarterback, not just because he's good at football, but because he's good at baseball. And he throws his passes
Safi,
like a baseball player would throw a ball.
Get off your chieftain propaganda.
Well, that adds something, and she has something to add too that not everybody has. And for them to just focus on this other BS is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very 2022, though.
I guess so, but and she still maintained what she always has done, using all of her senses to taste and to ask questions, and that's how she won. Not because she's a woman, or because she's Asian, or because she's blind. Because she won because she was the best over everybody. So,
yeah.
And she's still the really good and the best.
So, Safi?
So if you liked this, what about you? Oh, you gave it a
C-.
C-. Okay.
Because of all those elements that were annoying.
They were annoying.
That they completely are just so unnecessary to the episode.
And we're interested in the cooking. I'm really not interested in the ethnicity. I'm interested in the cooking too, because I learned something from some of what they do. So, I look at it as a learning experience. So if you like this video, I'm sorry I'm going on and on, please press the like button. And if you would like to become one of our subscribers, welcome, because we would enjoy your commentary. Did you see the episode? Are you going to watch it? What did you think, or what do you think about that? And anything else you want to talk about that has to do with Masterchef. Okay? Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.